Welcome to today's tutorial, where we will dive deep into the world of Bitcoin and learn how to generate Bitcoin addresses from scratch using Java. If you ever wanted to understand how Bitcoin wallets work at a fundamental level, you're in the right place. Before we get into the code, let's talk about what a Bitcoin address is. A Bitcoin address is a unique identifier that allows one to send and receive Bitcoins. In Bitcoin, it is usually represented as a string of alphanumeric characters. The process of generating a Bitcoin address involves a few steps. 1. Generating a private key. 2. Generating a public key from the private key. 3. Hashing the public key to create a Bitcoin address. Let's go through each of these steps. First, we need to generate a private key. In Bitcoin, a private key is typically a 256-bit number. We'll be using Java's secure random to generate this key. We've defined a method called generatePrivateKey that returns a byte array representing our private key. Next, let's implement the public key generation. We are using the elliptic curve (EC) algorithm to generate a key pair. Note that we're not directly using the private key here. In a real-world scenario, you would derive the public key from the private key. However, for simplicity, we're generating a new key pair. Next, let's hash the public key to create a Bitcoin address. The Bitcoin address is created through two hashing steps, SHA-256 followed by RIPEMD-160. In the getBitcoinAddress method, we're hashing the public key using SHA-256 first, followed by RIPEMD-160. The final step is to encode our result in base58, which is the encoding used in Bitcoin addresses. Before we implement the base58 encoding, let's combine everything we have so far into a single example. We will generate a private key, a public key, and then a Bitcoin address. Now, if you run the Bitcoin address generator class, it will generate a Bitcoin address every time you execute it. Just remember that every address is unique, thanks to the randomness of the private key. Next, let's implement the base58 encoding function. In the encode method, we're handling leading zeros, which is crucial because in base58 encoding 1 represents 0. We continue to implement the overall conversion algorithm to complete our encoding logic. Now we have the complete base58 encoding. When you run the Bitcoin address generator class after this addition, you will see proper Bitcoin addresses outputted. Before we finish, let's review some important security tips when dealing with private keys. Always store your private keys securely. Never hardcode them into your applications or expose them to the network. Consider using environment variables or encrypted storage solutions when managing sensitive keys. In conclusion, we've learned how to generate Bitcoin addresses from scratch using pure Java. You should now have a solid understanding of the underlying principles and the ability to implement them yourself. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this tutorial insightful.